Welcome back, friends. In the previous session we discussed about the cell history, and also we discussed about what is common to all cells. So I hope you understood that description, and it was just like an introduction to cytology. So it was just like giving you a history back, how they discovered a cell, and telling you what is common in all cells. But most oftenly, the part which is most asked in the exams starts from here, which we are discussing today. So yesterday's session were just like a refreshment, and today we are going to continue, or we are going to start on the concept of cytology. So we are saying cytology, the branch of biology concerned with the study of the structure, organization, and function of the cell. So what you will be studying in the cytology is the structure, organization, and function of the cell. So cytology is more commonly known as cell biology, and it deals with first the cell structure, then cell composition or the cell organization, how it is organized, ndani ya cell kuna nini, and then third, the interaction of the cell with one another, but also with the environment in which a cell exists. So vitu vitatu tutakavyokuwa tuna discuss kwenye cytology ni kwanza cell structure, what a cell is composed of, and then cell composition. Cell structure and composition, they are just like the same, but they are different, because in cell structure we are looking at different structure, their anatomy, and the composition is that hizo structure mbalimbali zinafanyaje kazi, organization or composition, how are they functioning, and then finally the interaction of the cell with one another. That means how one cell interact with another cell, or the cell interact with its environment. So by definition, the term cytology is derived from two Greek words. So the term cytology is derived from two Greek words, which are cyto means cell and logos means study. Thus, cytology can be defined as the study of structure, organization, and function of the cell. Is the study of structure, organization, and function of the cell is how we have defined it before. So cytology, more commonly also known as cell biology, that is the study of the cell structure, cell composition, and interaction of the cell and the environment in which they exist, is how we have already described it before. So the term cytology can also refer to cytopathology. So cytopathology is mostly or is commonly used in medicine. Kwenye udaktari tunatumia cytopathology, which is the diagnostic technique that examines cells from various body sites to determine the cause or the nature of the disease. Kwa hiyo cytopathology tunakuwa tunazistudy cell, tunakuwa tayari tunajua the normal structure of the cell, and then tunastudy zile cell zinavyoonekana tunaweza kujua kwamba hii cell sasa ina shida gani. The study of the normal structure of the cell, it is simply anatomy. So anatomy tunasoma structure of the normal body parts, but the study of the diagnose au kuidiagnose cell, kujua hii cell ina shida gani, tayari tunajua anatomy, muundo wa kawaida wa cell. Hasa cell ile tukikuta haiko kwenye muundo wa kawaida, maana yake ina disease. That means the study of a cell in order to determine kwamba the cause and the nature of the disease ambayo iko kwenye cell tunaita kama ni cytopathology. So in other words, cytopathology is the branch of pathology that studies and diagnoses diseases on the cellular level. Kwa cytopathology tuna diagnose disease kwenye cellular level, and the cytopathology is generally used on a sample of free cells or tissue fragments, in contrast to histopathology, which studies the whole tissue. Kwa hiyo kwenye medicine, if you will come to study medical doctor, utakuja gundua kuna vitu vinaitwa histopathology na tuna cytopathology. In cytopathology tunasoma cells au tunasoma fragments of tissues, but in histopathology tunasoma the whole tissue. So in histopathology tunaweza kukata labda a certain gland, then tukaenda nayo kwenye microscope tukaangalia disease gani ambayo imepata gland, lakini ni cytopathology lazima ile tissue tuifanyie fragment ndio tuweze kujua kwenye seli moja moja kimetokea nini. Our best example of cytopathology is the cytopathology of blood smear of malaria patient, ambayo tukiangalia hizi ni red blood cells. Hizi ni red blood cell. Hapa tuna normal red blood cell haina kitu, lakini this is the abnormal red blood cell. Unaona ina kadoti haka kadoti ni schizont wa Plasmodium falciparum. Na kwa nini tumejua kuwa ni schizont wa Plasmodium falciparum? Hapa chini unakuta tumeandika huyu anayeonekana hapo, huyu ni gametocyte, yuko na banana shape, huyu ni gametocyte of the Plasmodium falciparum. Lakini pia unaweza kuona hii red blood cell ina vidoti viwili, the ring like structures ziko mbili, unaona. Pia unaweza kuona huyu hapa anavyoonekana ana many dots. All of these ni different stages of growth of Plasmodium falciparum. Discuss in detail on a topic of classification about the different stages of the life cycle of Plasmodium as one among the member of Kingdom Protoctista. But what you need to understand here ni kwamba hii hapa ni cytopathology kwa sababu tunazistudy cells, red blood cell, tunaangalia the changes which happen in the red blood cell, and by looking at the changes which happen in the red blood cell we are able to know that which kind of Plasmodium is present in this blood. Kama tu huyu patient ataanza kuonyesha signs of malaria, kwa hiyo Plasmodium falciparum ataonyesha features tofauti kwenye cell ukilinganisha na Plasmodium ovale au Plasmodium malariae au Plasmodium vivax. We have 4 species of Plasmodium ambao tutaenda ku discuss in detail kwenye topic ya classification if we will study it together with me. So that's all about the study of the meaning of cytology, the study of structure, organization and function of the cell. But sometimes it can be referred to cytopathology. It can be used to refer to cytopathology, which is the diagnostic technique that examines cell from various body sites to determine the cause and the nature of the disease. Nini kimesababisha symptoms itokee kwa patient fulani. From there we can discuss about the definition of a cell itself. What is a cell? Tukisema tu cell, what is the cell? Cell, by introduction, it is the smallest living unit of an organism which control all life processes and make up the structure, therefore it is the basic unit of life. So cell ndio smallest unit of life, yani everything tunachokiona kinaendelea kwa mwanadamu kinakuwa kinaendelea ndani ya cell. Kwa hakuna ambacho kinaweza kikaendelea kwa mwanadamu, kwa mnyama, kwa mdudu, kwa kitu chochote, any living organism, chochote kinachoendelea ndani yake kinaendelea ndani ya cell. So a cell ndiko ambako kinatokea everything within a living organism. Everything within living organism kinatokea within a cell. So by definition we are defining a cell. A cell is the basic structural and the functional unit of all living organism. Is the basic structural and the functional unit of all living organism. Viumbe wote wametengenezwa na cell. Kwa cell inatengeneza structure, yani muundo, na pia inatengeneza function. All metabolic activities they are taking place within a cell. That's why we are saying kwamba cell pia inatengeneza a basic functional. Kwa kuna basic structural, yani muundo, kitu kidogo kinachotengeneza mwili wa organism yote ni cell. Lakini pia kuna basic functional, yani kazi zote zinazoendelea ndani ya organism zinatokea ndani ya cell. Kwa cell zinaweza kujiorganize together zikaform tissue, zikaperform one function, unaona. Lakini pia cell peke yake ana uwezo wa kuperform function. Now tukisema cell is the structural unit, what does it mean? When we are saying cell is the structural unit, what does it mean? So structural it is because all non-living things are entirely made up of one or more than one cell. Because all living organisms they are entirely made up of one or more than one living cell. That means all living organisms, their structure are composed of the cells. Muundo wa kiumbe hai umetengenezwa na cell. So organisms which are made up of only one cell, they are called as unicellular organism or single-celled organisms. And they include organisms such as bacteria, amoeba, palamasium, trypanosoma, euglena, spilogula, etc. On the other side, the organisms which comprise of more than one cell, they are described as multicellular organisms. For example, we have human bodies composed of the trillions of cells. So kwenye structure ni kwamba kuna organism ambao wanakuwa na seli moja na kuna organism ambao wanakuwa na seli nyingi, lakini all living organisms, they are made up of cells of either one or more than one cell. In terms of functional, tunavyosema cell is the functional unit of living organism. What does it mean? It is the functional unit because it is the cell or are the cells which perform all life processes like sensation, reproduction, respiration and movement. Kwa hiyo everything ambayo inakuwa inaendelea ndani ya living organism ni cell ndiye ambaye ana perform. Cell ndiye ambaye ana perform different life processes. So a cell in unicellular organism is able to perform all life activities, while cell in a multicellular organism are specialized to perform a specific function. Kwenye unicellular organism, cell moja inakuwa na perform function zote, kuanzia sensation, yani coordination ina perform yenyewe, reproduction yenyewe, respiration yenyewe, movement yenyewe. Lakini kwenye multicellular organism kama human being, cell ziko specialized. Tuna cells za lungs, yani alveoli, zina perform gaseous exchange. Tuna cells za kidney, yani nephron, zina perform function excretion. Tuna cells za eyes, yani rods and cone cells, zina perform sensation of light. Tuna cells za skin, yani yani receptors. Tuna nerve cells. Kwa in human body or in multicellular organism, cells zina perform different function. Kila cell inakuwa na perform function fulani, lakini kwa sababu zote ni cell, ndio maana nasema cell is the basic functional unit. So a cell in unicellular organism is able to perform all life activities, while cells in multicellular organism are specialized to perform specific function. In other words, a single-celled organism show all attributes of life, thus it carries out all functions of life. It feeds itself, sensitive to its environment, exchange matters and energy with its environment. It can synthesize all necessary materials for life. It can respire and is able to reproduce. Hiyo ni single-celled organism. The cell of multicellular organism differ from the cell of single-celled organism in one important respect, ambayo ni nini? They are not of living independent. Kwa hiyo kwenye multicellular organisms, cell haijitegemea yenyewe kuishi, inategemea mwenzake. Unaona, tutaenda kusoma mbele kwamba a cell is a self-contained unit, kwamba cell inaweza kujitegemea yenyewe kuishi. Lakini kwenye multicellular ni kwamba cell inakuwa inajitegemea kuishi, lakini kule kujitegemea kunategemea pia function nyingine ziperform cell nyingine. So thus they cannot carry out all the functions of living organism. Each cell is alive, but each is specialized to carry out one or possibly few functions for the organism of which it is part of. Kwa hiyo cell inakuwa na survive kwa sababu yenyewe ina perform function fulani kwenye ile part iliyopo, unaona, na cell nyingine inakuwa na perform function fulani. Ndivyo ambavyo ipo kwenye multicellular organism. There is division of labor among the cells in multicellular organism, what you call the cell specialization, which we discuss it later. So there is a question, why a cell is said to be a basic structural and a functional unit of life. Majibu tayari yako juu hapo. Structural kwa sababu all living organisms are made up of cells. Functional is because all the functions which are performed in living organism, they are taking place within a cell. So in multicellular organism we have the specialized cells. For example, here we have the cells. This table summarizes the cells and the specialized function. We have the nerve cell, they are specialized for transmission of electrical signal in the body. Red blood cell for transport of respiratory gases. Sperm and the ova, they carry telematerial from one generation to the next. The muscle cell, they concerned with the movement. The rod and the cones, they are concerned with the photoreception or vision kwenye macho. And then the mesophyll cell, they carry out photosynthesis process in plants. So what we can say is that a cell is the unit of protoplasm, that is cytoplasm and the nucleus. Kwa hiyo kila cell unayojua wewe ina protoplasm and the nucleus, that is in eukaryotic cell. Kwa kwenye seli ambazo ni eukaryotic, lakini tutaenda kuona kwenye prokaryotic ipoje. So a cell is the unit of protoplasm, that is cytoplasm and nucleus, enclosed by cell membrane. Kwa tunakuwa nucleus pamoja na cytoplasm zimefungwa ndani ya cell membrane. In other words, a cell may be defined as the basic unit of life, which consists of protoplasm, that is nucleus, and the cytoplasm surrounded by plasma membrane. So there is no much need for you to understand this definition. Like in this, simply is based on the structure of the cell. That means it is made up of the protoplasm, that is nucleus, and the cytoplasm surrounded by the plasma membrane. So they are surrounded by plasma membrane or cell membrane and have a nucleus in eukaryotic cell, or they have nuclear area where the nuclear material are located in a prokaryotic cell. So in a prokaryotic cell we don't have nucleus, but we have the nuclear area. Tunakuwa tuna eneo fulani ndani ya cell ambako genetic materials zinakuwepo, tunaita kama nuclear area. So protoplasm is the living part of the cell which is composed of nucleus and cytoplasm. Tunapokuwa tunazungumzia protoplasm ni living part of the cell, yani sehemu inayoishi ndani ya cell inakuwa imetengenezwa na a nucleus pamoja na cytoplasm. Most of cells are microscopic. Sizes ranges normally from 10 micrometer to 20 micrometer. They show remarkably diversity in the shapes and the sizes. We shall discuss later about the diversity in the shape and the sizes of the cell. They are basically spherical in shape, although there is some variation when they are modified by the processes of cell differentiation to suit their function. Kwa hiyo kwenye multicellular organism tuna kitu tunakiita cell differentiation, ambayo different cell they tend to differentiate, yani zina undergo adaptation ili kuweza kuperform different function. Kwa hiyo zinapokuwa zina undergo differentiation zinakuwa zina change shape ili kuweza kusuit different function. So tutaenda kudiscuss about the variation in the shape and sizes of the cell. Cell may exist as independent unit of life as in bacteria and certain prototysts such as amoeba, plasmodium, and trypanosoma. So they may form colonies or tissues as in fungi, plants, and animals. The structure of an organism is composed of cells. Thus, the cell is building block of an organism. Also, the function which carried by an organism, life process occur in the cell. So the function which are carried by an organism, they are taking place within the cell. These are the reasons why the cell is said to be the basic unit of life. Kwa sababu kila kitu kinakuwa kinatokea ndani ya cell, ndio maana cell inahesabika kama the basic unit of life. But there is the most commonly asked question in the exam, kwamba explain why a cell is said to be the self-contained unit. Kwa nini cell inasemwa kuwa ni self-contained unit? Now, the cell, whether in unicellular organism or in a multicellular organism, is capable of exhibiting some of its functions independently. Yani kuna baadhi ya function ambayo cell inakuwa na uwezo wa perform bila kutegemea cell nyingine, independent. Thus, the cell show functional autonomy or act as autonomous unit. It is able to carry out activities independent for its own survivalist. This can be justified from the following facts. Kwanza, each cell obtains food, oxidize them to produce energy, and store this energy in the form of ATP. Kwa fact ya kwanza ni kwamba kila cell ana obtain food kivyake, ana oxidize kivyake kutengeneza energy, na ana store energy temporarily in the form of ATP kivyake. Kila cell ana uwezo kufanya hivyo kivyake, unaona? Ndio maana nasema cell is the self-contained unit. Lakini pili, each cell can respire and exchange gases with its environment. Kila cell ana uwezo kuchukua oxygen na akatoa carbon dioxide kivyake, kila cell. Tatu, each cell synthesizes their own macromolecules from micromolecules. Kila cell anatengeneza macromolecules, yani proteins from amino acids au carbohydrates from kivyake. Yana hapo ndo tunaelezea kwa nini cell is the self-contained unit. Number 4, with the help of its lysosome, each cell discards its own worn out component. Kwa kwenye cell kama kuna mitochondria iliyozeeka, kila cell ina discard kivyake, kila cell inatupa takataka kivyake yenyewe. Lakini 5, metabolic wastes are discarded by each through its own mechanism. Kwa kila cell inakuwa na mechanism ya kwake yenyewe ya kufanya metabolic wastes ziweze kutoka ndani ya cell. Number 6, each cell may undergo division. Kila cell ina undergo division producing identical daughter cell kivyake. Lakini number 7, each cell can maintain homeostasis. Kila cell inaweza kufanya homeostasis, yani ka maintain constants of environment within it. Number 8, cell regulate their activities through, kwanza ni flow of energy na pili ni flow of information. Kwamba kila cell inakuwa na coordination. Mle ndani ya cell, different parts of the cell they tend to coordinate. Unaona? So it tend to regulate its activity. Each cell it has the ability to regulate its activity yoyote. Iwe ni nutrition, gaseous exchange ni nini. Each cell it has the ability to regulate its activity. In amount of ions in the cell, every activity. Lakini number 9, the whole genetic information is obtained in a cell and can be made to grow into fully develop an organism, a phenomenon known as totipotence. Kwa hiyo totipotence ni ile tabia ambayo unachukua seli moja unaweka kwenye environment ambayo ina grow kutengeneza seli nyingine. This is normally taking place in plants. Unaweza kuchukua a cell of a carrot, a mature cell of a carrot, ukiweka kwenye kacha, ile mature cell of a carrot ina develop roots, inatoa mizizi, baadaye inaenda kutengeneza carrot kabisa, mmea. Unaona, that's what we call as totipotence. Maana yule seli mmoja of a carrot ana full information za kuweza kumtengeneza carrot mwingine. Seli anatengeneza carrot nzima, that is totipotence. We'll study it in detail in genetics when we'll be discussing about the evidence for the location of genetic material in the nucleus. Number 10, each cell has its own lifespan. A cell may grow, divide and die while its surrounding cell may be in different state. Kwa cell moja anaweza akagrow, akadivide, akadifferentiate, akafa, lakini cell anayefuatia hapa akawa bado ni mzima. Unaona? Labda tu inategemea na sababu iliyosababisha cell afe. If it is whether apoptosis or necrosis. Kwa sababu apoptosis ni progressive death of the cell, yani cell anakufa mwenyewe kivyake. Lakini necrosis au necrosis ni kifo cha cell kutokana na reason fulani. Labda hii cell imekosa oxygen, anakufa by necrosis. Cell ya kifa by necrosis normally anaweza akafa na cell wenzake wa jirani, kwa sababu necrosis huwa inakuwa na reason behind. Lakini kama ni apoptosis, yani progressive death of the cell, cell moja anaweza kafa wakati jirani yake bado ni mzima. So a cell, tuangalie tu kidogo kuhusu cell ambavyo anaweza kuperform functions zake mwenyewe kwenye unicellular pamoja na multicellular organisms. Tukianza na unicellular organism, a cell of unicellular or single celled organism has absolute independent existence. It does not depend upon any other cell for any function, material or information, except for sexual reproduction. All activities are carried out by the same cell. The division of labor at the cellular level is here. However, it does not exist at subcellular levels. Kwa hiyo cell wa unicellular organism wanaweza kuperform all functions independently of the other. Hiyo ndio tunasema cell is the self-contained unit. Lakini ni multicellular organism, situation regarding cellular autonomy is slightly different in multicellular organisms, where all the cells are not in direct contact with the external environment. Kwa hiyo huku sio cell zote ziko in contact with the external environment. Kama tungesema kila cell ifanye gaseous exchange, kuna baadhi ya cells zingeshindwa. Kwa nini? Kwa sababu ziko mbali na gas yenyewe iko nje. Unaona? So such cell coordinate with other cell for different functions and thus show division of labor. Kwa hiyo cell ambazo ziko mbali na surface ya mwili, labda cell ziko kwenye tumbo, zingeshindwa kufanya gaseous exchange. So they must coordinate with other cells which have ability to do gaseous exchange, and then hiyo gaseous exchange ikishafanyika, maana gas itakuwa transported kwenda kwa different parts of the body. So they also become specialized they become specialized for additional function such as secretion, support, protection, etc. Kwa pia kuna cell specialization ambayo inasababisha different cells ziweze perform different functions. Due to specialization, the cells of multicellular organisms may lose certain activities necessary for autonomy. For example, erythrocytes do not respire. Yani red blood cell hazifanyi respiration. Kwa nini? Kwa sababu kama zingefanya respiration, manake zingekuwa zinatumia oxygen ambayo zinaibeba. Ndio maana red blood cell they lack mitochondria, and that is important because the lack of mitochondria tend to prevent them from using the oxygen they carry. Kwa wana uwezo wa kufanya only anaerobic respiration which do not use oxygen and which will not consume the oxygen which is carried by them. Lakini pia mature nerve cell cannot undergo division. Nevertheless, these cells still retain the capacity for independent existence. Kwamba mature nerve cell haiwezi ikafanya division kutengeneza nerve cell mwingine. Yani hiyo ni kwa organism wote. Nerve cell akishakuwa matured hawezi akadivide kwenda kutengeneza nerve cell mwingine. Unaona? Kwa hiyo hivyo ni baadhi ya vitu ambavyo natakiwa vijue kwa multicellular organism. Baadhi ya seli huwa, kwa mfano erythrocyte mwenyewe akigrow akiwa mkubwa na lose nucleus, vitu ambavyo kwenye unicellular organism havitokei. Unaona? So they only depend on other cells for their additional activities for survival of the organism in which they are present. Kwa hiyo seli kama hizi zinakuwa zina perform specific function only, but for other functions they depend on the other cells in the organism. So there is the study question here, why the cell is said to be the self-contained unit. Why the cell is said to be the self-contained unit. So let us end up here. In the next session we'll start discussing about the importance of studying cytology, and then we will go deeper into these importances, and then we'll discuss other things regarding cytology. Thank you, and later wish you nice studies.